Hey guys, so I wanted to provide an update on the coronavirus situation as I know it as of today, March 18th, I think it is, Wednesday. And so I think the age-old question is when will this end? And obviously no one knows the exact date, and when will it end really to me equates to when will business get back to normal. And so I think that there are some things that some signs you can look for that would suggest as to when this ends. And so I think the first one is that the quicker we can get to a pragmatic solution as a country to address the spread of the disease and how we're actually dealing with it will be an indicator as to that this thing is kind of starting to go in a more positive direction. So up until now, the message has really been kind of laden with panic, right? And a lot of that comes from not a whole lot of knowledge about the virus itself. And so I think that as days and weeks pass, the more knowledge we gain, the more comfortable we are we as a country, talking about what the solutions are. And so what you'll notice as well is that the only governor in the country that is holding press conferences that are being televised is the governor from New York. And if you get a chance to take a look at some of those news conferences, I think that the country as a whole is going to look towards states like New York and states like Texas and perhaps even states like California that have strong leadership and as always, the state is able to move on a more nimble basis than the entire country as a whole. And so what works for one state that seems plausible and seems pragmatic and seems like a solution is probably going to be followed by the national leadership. And so I think that as states start to adopt more pragmatic measures and we start to hear about those things, again, the closer we'll get to an end. So so a couple of things on our industry in general. Yes, closings are still happening, but be mindful that anything that was in the hopper a month ago, 45 days ago, are surely going to close. What I worry about is things moving forward, things that enter into escrow today, what that's going to look like. So I asked my sphere of influence, our lenders, our title company, what that would look like. And so the guidance from those folks is that unless we have a mandate where they call it a shelter in place, which is no non-essential businesses can really operate. Ours is considered a non-essential business, would mean that people wouldn't be able to physically close. They wouldn't be able to go somewhere to close. But that would also mean that lenders couldn't do what they need to do, county offices couldn't do what they need to do. And so be mindful of a shelter in place mandate. Getting back to the guidance from the governor of New York, as recently as yesterday, now mind you, New York City is a city of 8 million people, and it is a hotspot just based on the density of the population for the spread of the virus. That's a known issue. As recently as yesterday, the governor said that a shelter-in-place mandate was on the table. Today, that is not the case. And so he recognizes the need to be more pragmatic, to the need to erect pop-up medical facilities to address this thing so that the economy can chug along as planned. That's why I said that be mindful of what individual states are doing because that may trickle over to the national front as well. And so, but if that should happen locally, then that really is the only thing that would kind of bring the industry to a screeching halt. And so be mindful that the ability to record a deed at a county office that might be closed does not impede the actual closing itself. Okay, so if the lenders can finance loans and title companies can close them, then there should be no issue. Now, let's move on to how this translates into public opinion. So, as I mentioned in a prior video, the stock market is not necessarily only fueled by what's going on with regards to the coronavirus. A lot of that was started by the oil price war between Russia and Saudi Arabia. Now, it does have one key element that I need to talk about, and that is consumer confidence. If consumer confidence is down, then spending on large ticket items like housing and cars is going to stop. It is not going to be unusual for buyer clients that you represent to want to hold off on spending that nest egg that they had earmarked for a down payment, to not do that because of a fear of job loss. Okay, so that may or may not be coming. Open houses are slowing down, if not stopped. And so don't be surprised if there aren't any for you to host, if they're not your listings. Don't be surprised if sellers that you represent don't want to have them. But again, I think that is going to abate as we get more knowledge of what we can and cannot do. People are going to potentially use this as an excuse to get out of a contract. And that fear may be baseless, or it may be based on real fact. Don't be surprised if that happens. And so here is our stance as realtors if that does occur. Remember, you are not party to the real estate contract. We only represent one party of that contract. If they are a seller and something is about to close next week and they have a fear of something fueled by the coronavirus, they are more than welcome to get out of that contract or stop the transaction, but not without impact, right? So if there is no contractual reason for them to get out of that contract, then they run the risk of being sued by, in this case, the buyer. Make sure you're counseling them accordingly. If you represent a buyer and they want to exit a contract, if they are out of their option period or they don't have any contractual reason where they can exit the contract, then again, they can exit the contract, but they will most likely not get their earnest money back. Okay? So there is no clause in there that exempts them from exiting the contract just because of what's going on. Okay? So, which brings me to my last point. I can't emphasize this enough. Do not give guidance to your client with regards to what they should do with their money, with regards to what they should do in this situation. Please, please, please do not provide advice, whether they ask you for advice or whether they don't ask you for advice on what they should do. The only time you should chime in is, okay, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, if you are thinking of getting out of this contract because you have a fear of job loss, then here's what contractually could happen to you. Okay? I am not suggesting you get out of this contract or not get out of this contract, but if you do, this is what could happen to you if you do that. Okay? It is not your money. It is not your contract. Please do not provide advice to your clients on what they should do with that contract or with their own money. Okay? This is not a housing industry crisis, but by the same token, don't ever start a statement by saying, well, if it were me, or if it were my money, it is not you and it is not your money. So please do not provide advice on that front. So here is what I am doing as your broker in this very fluid situation. I am taking my guidance on press briefings that I see on behalf of local government as well as the federal level. I am heeding advice from TREC and from TAR. And most importantly, I'm heeding my advice from what's actually going on out there in the field, which is direct feedback from you guys. So that is kind of all we can do right now. From what I hear, specifically, not anecdotally, but specifically from you guys, is that people are getting listings, people are closing transactions, but again, it is a very fluid situation, and aspects of this could stop if people start losing their jobs. And so anyway, that is all I have for today. I will continue to do these videos based on new information that I get, but please just hold tight. This will play itself out as we get new information. It is not in anyone's best interest to put a screeching halt on the economy and suffer the economic losses that we're already suffering for any prolonged period of time. So I can't imagine this will go on in the current format for much longer. But that is just my humble opinion. Anyway, that's all for today, and we'll talk soon.